Hey folks, I'm Sir Vainglory here with another Anatomy of a Battle video for Steel Division Normandy 44. And this one features an online 1v1 battle between the 15th Infantry Division and the 91st Luftlande Division on the Cote 112 map. So you can see on this map, on the left hand side here, there's a hill that dominates the left third of the map, and towards the German side of it there's a heavy forest. It's a strong defensive position. So I decide to leave this side of the map to the German. My main objective is going to be to advance up the main road towards this crossroads and then try and dig in there, hold that position, maybe with an anti-tank gun, a machine gun and some infantry support. And over on the right hand side, my secondary objective will be to potentially take this village and hold it. It's not essential, I might just push up towards that village and try and pin the Germans back there. But overall the intention is going to be to push into the German positions and then just dig in and try and let the victory points accumulate. I think that I'm going to be coming up against some obviously high quality infantry. They're going to be hard to beat, hard to break their morale, so it's going to be a tough fight. I don't want to spread out across the whole of the map. And I think if he puts infantry up onto that hill, or any sort of units up onto that hill, they're going to be ineffectual if I don't advance in that area. So I'm going to concentrate on the centre and on the right and let him take the rest of the map. What I start with in terms of my forces are sort of 3 recce sections and Humbers, 4 infantry squads, 3 6-pounder anti-tank guns and 1 2-inch mortar. And my plan is to move the bulk of the forces up on the right hand side, try and get into a blocking position early and send a holding force up the centre along the main road, and once I get reinforcements I'm going to bring them in along the centre so that they can either reinforce the centre or the left flank as necessary. So that's the thinking behind advancing on the right in force to start with. So I send just some recce to the left, small force into the centre at the main road, and most of the infantry, the mortar and one of the recce squads down to the road on the right hand side. So it is very quiet. I don't see any indication of any German units at all when I move up to my initial positions. I get the recce up and get the recce infantry out of the carriers without seeing any Germans at all. So I'm feeling that it's far too quiet. I'm not used to having no contact in the early stages of a battle. So having taken stock, I decide to move the recce forward on the right hand side and just try and get a feel for where the Germans might be. Ideally I would like to get up to the tree line on the right hand side towards the middle of the map. If I can get into that position there and hold there, that would be enough. If I can push back the centre and the left as well, that would be enough to get me some victory points. So I'm not too bothered about pushing beyond there to start with. If I get to that tree line, that will be a good jumping off point if I decide to move forward. You can see that the German player has pretty much taken up defensive positions. There's no sign of any advance at all. So on the right hand side, I do begin to push forward the recce squads along the tree line by the right hand road, and also up towards the main road in the centre. I'm just holding steady in the centre for the moment while I wait for the reinforcements to move up. You can see that there is a strong force up on that hill on the left after all, so I'm glad I didn't send anything up in that direction. On the right hand side, moved up, still no sign of the Germans at all. You can see that the Germans have stopped back in that village, so they're really far back, which is fine for me. In the centre, again, nothing happening. You can see where the Germans are. I couldn't see them at all at this point. I'm quite surprised at the lack of any activity so far. On the right hand side, I'm pushing up. I reckon I'm going to try and go for that tree line, move up the infantry to support the recce squads, and start moving the mortar carrier up towards the centre, trying to get that into a position where it can support either the centre or the right flank. And I bring up a Honey light tank, which I'm also going to send up towards that sort of centre area. So you can see I'm also beginning to move forward the 6-pounder anti-tank gun on the right while it's quiet. There's plenty of spots where it can take cover on the way forward. So I'm quite surprised at the lack of contact on the left and the centre in particular. And at this point I really do suspect the German's going to just sit and wait for me to come to him. So I send my scouts on the left forward. You can see I've brought up another 2-inch mortar to support this flank. I thought the scouts might have followed the bush line, but they decided to cut across the open field there. And it's not too long before they're engaged by an MG42 and they're wiped out. But at least I now have an idea that there are some Germans in the vicinity. I'm moving up some more infantry and Vickers heavy machine gun on the left, and there's more reinforcements to come in down at the right hand side as well. And you can see we've reached the tree line on the right with the infantry, the Humber, the recce. So that is a good position to hold for now. It's pushed the front line back there quite a bit. So I'm happy to have got there without any major hassle. And I'm pushing forward along the right hand road in the centre with a couple of infantry squads supported by the Honey light tank and the mortar. So quite happy with this push up the right flank. I don't need to go too much further. That would be enough for now to be giving me a basis to work from. Up on the main road, there's been no more contact. The Germans haven't moved out at all, so I've moved the Humber a bit further forward, and I'm trying to use that to provoke some sort of reaction. Moving the Humber forward gives me the advantage in terms of territory. I go up to 51% and the victory score starts to tick up. But there's still no reaction at all from the Germans anywhere across the map. They're just sitting waiting for me, building up their forces while they wait for me to attack them. Down on the right hand side at the tree line, no sign of any enemy. There are a couple of units I've spotted in the village, but they're too far away to engage. And in the centre some artillery fire starts to come in, but it seems to be either firing blind or very inaccurate. I bring in a Spitfire to try and spot anything in the centre, give me some idea what might be there, and then I pull it off to the right towards the village to take on the anti-tank gun that I'd spotted. But apart from that, I'm getting a bit frustrated at the lack of any visuals, especially in the centre. I know that they're in that tree line ahead of me, so I decide to push forward in a bit more force, use my infantry, so that if we do encounter any resistance, it's not wiped out quickly with the MG42. But you can see there's still no contact anywhere, no fights, no fire. So I begin to push forward this infantry, and the infantry by the main road, almost as soon as it leaves cover, it's engaged by the machine gun, and it gets pinned down behind some buildings by the side of the road. But I've got the Humber there, so I move that up, and that engages the machine gun. So now I got a pretty good idea of where the Germans are on the right and on the left, on the centre, and I think there's something up on the hill on the left, and I'm guessing there might be a chance to push through to the northwest of the crossroads here. I reckon it can't be strong everywhere across the map, and that might be the gap that I'm looking for. If I can push forward there, I might even be able to isolate the forces up on the hill. So I'm pushing forward the mortar to support the centre here, but the Humber is engaged by an anti-tank gun in that forested area, and after a couple of shots it's eventually knocked out. But more generally, I am now beginning to move forward along both of the roads in the centre of the map. But you can see that they're quite strongly held, and I'll find that out for myself in the near future. There's a strong defensive line, particularly in the trees on this right, the road that's on the left of this side of the screen, but that's the right hand road of the centre. All that I know is in there is an MG42 that pins one of my infantry squads, but I know that it's going to be supported by infantry at least. So I engage the machine gun with the Honey Light tank. Moving up the mortar, I could have laid smoke down to screen the advance, but with a position like that, if you move up your infantry, as soon as it emerges from the smoke, you can find yourself pinned down, destroyed if there's a strong infantry force in that tree line. So I decide just to try and suppress and potentially eliminate the MG42 with the fire from the mortar and the honey. I reckon you can deal with it quickly enough. I'm bringing up a 25 pounder artillery piece on the main road here. I decide that I'm going to need the weight of fire if I'm going to have to try and push through the lines. The honey engages infantry straight ahead, but the Germans have moved their forces towards the edge of the hill, particularly moving an anti-tank gun right up into the tree line on the ridge there, and before the honey can spot it, the anti-tank gun gets a bead on it and knocks it out. So my advance on the road to the right of the centre is still held up by that force in the tree line, so I decide to push further forward on the road to the right towards the village. Again, I don't know how much is in there. I'm hoping that I can advance far enough that I can get into a flanking position on the infantry that's up on the ridge. That's the plan anyway. But we soon detect the forces in the village and we get a bit held up. But up on the hill on this road, we get enough weight of fire onto this squad and begin to suppress it. But we still haven't detected the rest of the infantry or the other units that are there. But the German advance on the left, and this bulge in between the two central roads, has sort of pushed us back to 50-50 split of territory. So I'm trying to move up the infantry supported by Humber to the left of the main road, but the anti-tank gun up on the hill has recovered from being suppressed and it takes the Humber out. So I target my 25 pounder on that tree line to try and suppress what's up there, and then I'm going to use my infantry and the Vickers heavy machine gun to try and keep them at bay. I'm also bringing in an AVRE along the main road. I'm going to send that up to support the left flank. It takes quite a while to get there. Back on the right hand side, we've detected more infantry that's engaged by the Humber. They're sitting in the tree line between the village and the infantry up on the ridge. The machine gun carrier and an infantry squad detect an anti-tank gun that's moving into position in the village, and the Humber, the MMG, the machine gun carrier, engaged the gun and managed to suppress it. We're still trying to break through this resistance up on the tree line up on the ridge, but it's hard going. The Germans don't reveal themselves. It's a feature throughout the battle. They seem to just have return fire orders. Back over in the village, we are able to suppress the infantry that's there, and we also then take out the anti-tank gun. Gives a wee bit of security on that flank. So the territory is slightly in my favour again, and as I'm struggling to make headway on the right hand side, I decide to try and focus a bit more on the left. Again, thinking he can't be strong everywhere, there must be a weak spot that I can press, and I do manage to get some weight of fire in on a squad here that seems to be isolated, but it's well dug in and just can't budge it. Up on the hill on the left hand side, I've got infantry up to the tree line where it engages a machine gun, MG42, and it's able to force that to surrender. At the same time, I've got the Vickers heavy machine gun there and the 25 pounder that I use to target the German infantry up in the tree line, and it quickly suppresses it as the AVRE moves up into position. So I'm now thinking that I might start to have the advantage. You can see how quickly the front line retreats, so I'm reckoning I might be able to take that hill now. So retask the 25 pounder to fire on the crossroads up to where the main objective is. Try and help the advance up there. On the left hand side, my infantry has now engaged an anti-aircraft gun up on the brow of the summit of the hill, and the AVRE is getting ever closer to being in a position to support them. But just at this point, an HS-124 appears, targets the AVRE. Fortunately, AVRE is a tough beast, and it survives, and it resumes its advance up to the hill. In the centre, it finally looks like I might have been able to break the resistance, especially at this road on the right. There's more infantry moving up in support, as you can see, but just at this point, a combination of artillery fire, the last few defenders in the trees, and my lack of ammunition sort of stalls me once again, and I can't move forward. I can see he is reinforcing that tree line, so I try to advance up towards the village again on the right hand side, hoping that I can draw some of his units away from the ridge out towards the right, and maybe let me make a breakthrough there. Behind the village there's an anti-aircraft gun that engages the machine gun carrier and wipes it out, but I've managed to bring up a Challenger, and the Challenger shoots at the anti-aircraft gun and it seems to disappear, so I presume that it's eliminated it straight away, and then the tank changes target to engage the infantry in the tree line. So there's now a bit of a crossfire going on with the Challenger, the Humber and the Honey Light tank, all on that road firing up to the left. And over in the centre, it's still pretty hard fought. There's artillery coming in on both sides, trying to either force the position or hold the position. And to the left of the objective, there's still the infantry squad there in that tree line. It's the only thing that I can see there, and despite the weight of fire, I just cannot dislodge it. It's the benefits of having high quality troops. But I'm now bringing forward a couple more rifle squads that I'm sending up to try and make another push for the crossroads. Down on the right, the Challenger, the Honey Light tank and the Humber are all engaging the infantry up in the village ahead of them. Managed to suppress them, and then they turn back to focus on this infantry in the tree line to the left. But up on the hill at this road, there's still defenders in the tree line, and I don't have any forces there to really make any sort of advance at all. All I can do is try and keep some pressure on them, but really weakened in that position. In the village, more troops appear, but they're engaged and they're wiped out. But from that flank I can see that there are quite a lot of forces over to the left, although a lot of them are pinned down, and I do have plenty of units being able to put in fire there. The main road, fresh infantry units push up, supported by a Daimler Little John. And it's now beginning to look like it might have the beginnings of a breakthrough on the right hand side. But in the main road, the Germans, as I said, they don't engage. They seem to have return fire only orders. So they stay hidden, and it's difficult to assess whether you're making any sort of progress or not. There's an anti-tank gun being brought in to support the ridge line, and it's engaged by the Honey and the Challenger, but unfortunately it manages to take out the Honey just as I'm trying to withdraw it. But there are German reinforcements now pouring in. On the right hand side, all I've got to oppose them is that Challenger. There are some infantry moving up. There's a 6-pounder and a Tri-Polston further back. But fortunately the German commander again decides to be defensive and sit in the village rather than press towards me. So that takes a bit of the pressure off me. With the infantry moving up and the Challenger beginning to run low on main gun ammo, I push towards the village, hoping that the machine guns will be enough to suppress whatever's in there. But overall it's pretty much a stalemate situation again. Luckily I do have 55% of the territory, so I'm accumulating score while we try and duke it out. But I'm concerned about the left flank, so I'm calling in more infantry to help defend there. Again, I don't know exactly what's up there, but the fact that I've not been able to push back the front line marker, I reckon that there are sort of forces in strength up there. The AVRE has also been disabled, its tracks are broken, and it's not in a position that can't see up to the summit of the hill, and it's masked by trees, so it's not able to make any sort of effective contribution. But as the fresh infantry squads move up to the hill, you can see the AVRE. It's in the position where it is. It's practically useless there. But as the infantry moves up, there's another German infantry squad appears in that forest ahead of us. So I'm glad to have additional forces up there, because it looks like he has been reinforcing the hill. You can see again just what he has. But back in the main road, the Germans at the crossroads have eventually engaged the infantry that's been moving up in the open, and it's been heavily damaged. The Little John that I had there, for whatever reason, I've not given it any further orders, and it sits doing nothing for a while. On the right hand side, the Challenger and the infantry are trying to engage the infantry in the tree line, but the anti-tank gun that took out the Honey is still there, and that's targeting the Challenger now and takes it out. So again, no progress being made. Tri-Polston does some good work on the infantry in the tree line. But I've decided now it's time for an all or nothing push along the main road, and I bring up another 2 platoons of rifles. And I've also have a crocodile moving up slowly to support them. And I target the crossroads with my 25-pounder, try and give them some additional support. As infantry moves up, I have realised that the Little John's there and given it some orders. So at least it's doing something now. But the middle, the objective is still pretty strongly held. On the left hand side it looks like we're maybe beginning to make a bit of progress. And I bring in a Spitfire at this point, trying to target some of the artillery in the rear areas. I do manage to suppress that, but German brings in an ME-109, engages the Spitfire and is able to shoot it down. And I've got a Typhoon on hand, targets infantry instead of the anti-tank gun, pins it down, and so it's not really that effective a strike. But over on the left hand side, I've managed to push one of my squads up to the summit of the hill, but there's still plenty of Germans up there to oppose us. So as I suspected, they're holding that for us quite strongly. But in the main road, the infantry that I've brought up is now pushing up towards the objective, and we have finally managed to get a bit of a breakthrough to the left of the objective. We've managed to wipe out the squad that sat there and defended for so long, and all of a sudden it begins to look clear. It looks like we might have made the breakthrough, so I'm getting a bit excited by that. And I'm thinking the amount of troops that he's thrown in on the right hand side, maybe the left has and the centre have been sufficiently weakened. Obviously you can see there that there's still units ahead of me in the forest by the crossroads. But fortunately, when we do move forward, I do have enough squads in the vicinity so that when the German infantry in the forest there does reveal itself again and re-engages, we've got enough weight of fire there to deal with them. We've also got the Daimler, the Little John and the Crocodile now in a position that they can give direct support, but the weight of fire eventually does it for us. So the pressure that we've been applying on the centre here and to the left has finally paid off, and we're able to make that push. The last couple of units there by the crossroads eventually are worn down. The infantry to the left hand side has been pushed back, but you can see that the road in the right of centre is a completely different story. My forces there have been completely wiped out, and I'm now concerned that the German commander might push along that road, drive a strong force in between the right flank and the centre. So I'm bringing in a couple of Wolverines for their firepower and some more infantry to try and help hold this right hand side. But luckily the German commander again holds on to those defensive positions. They are strong positions, they're just too far back. And as the Wolverine gets into range, it engages this infantry that's trying to push forward, and a couple of shots it pins the recce squad down. I've still got a couple of weak squads there on the right hand side doing their best. So the Wolverine's in position to engage that enemy, and I've got a Stuart carrier and a machine gun carrier moving up to support the infantry. We finally reached the objective in the centre, got to the crossroads, so I need to try and get forces forward to hold it. I'm going to move infantry into the tree line to the left, move my armour to the open ground on the right hand side, and bring forward a machine gun, an anti-tank gun, whatever I can get with range, to cover both of the approach roads there. You see the infantry's been engaged by an anti-aircraft gun, so my infantry's engaged with that as German reinforcements come along the main road. So the positions have now reversed. The Germans are out in the open and I've got the forces in the cover of the trees. So positions totally reversed. In fact, it's even worse for the Germans because I've got the Crocodile and the Little John there, and they're quickly pinned down and forced back. On the right hand side, the German has decided to try and push forward a bit more, but the weight of firepower that I've got there, they don't have the strength to push against us. I've got a heavy machine gun, I've got the Stuart recce, I've got the machine gun carrier, the Wolverine, the Tripolston, and we're able to set up a good crossfire on this infantry that's up on the ridgeline. And you can see that from this point we do now begin to just wipe out the infantry that's there, one squad at a time. So it's now beginning to look good for us. In the centre we've got our main objective. We're now being able to threaten the secondary objective from that high ground. Just with the weight of fire there, there's nothing that can stand against it any longer. The last units that are in the tree line are wiped out. And after a brief firefight, I can finally move up my troops into the tree line to threaten the village. Bringing a Typhoon to engage the troops that he's trying to rush up to support the defence of that tree line. So I've now got a strong grip on the main objective and almost isolated the forces up on the hill on the left. There's still a strong force up there on the hill, but and it could almost have made life difficult. You can see a artillery observer tank moving along that main road as the Germans push out from that forested area. I've got two 25-pounders there now, so one of them lays down smoke to hopefully let the tank pass unmolested. Another one targets the German forces that are moving out, and I'm bringing up some additional infantry to go up and attack that flank, and there's another Stuart carrier coming in as well to back them up. The 25-pounders just pound away on the Germans now. But over on the right hand side, we've now managed to take that ridge line, and we've got a good position to fire down into the village, and the troops on the main road just cannot advance. In the valley between the ridge line and the village, the anti-tank guns engaged by a lot of the machine guns on the main road, and it's eventually wiped out, and the tanks are pretty much isolated now. They're not going to be able to push forward against the infantry. All they can do would be pull back, but they sit there for now. So on the left hand side of the hill, the Stuart carrier and the infantry begins to move forward, but the German anti-tank gun still up there, and takes out the carrier. My infantry does push forward, but there's another German infantry squad in there, which is pinned down. So we managed to take out the anti-tank gun, but my own infantry is then pinned by the light tank to the left that stays hidden behind the bush line, and another infantry squad further ahead in the trees. So a couple of squads are pinned down there while the third one moves up. 25-pounders continue to pour in fire on that infantry. In the centre, two German planes come in. One of them targets my crocodile, takes it out. The other goes for Wolverine. Fortunately, the Wolverine survives. But another two planes come in on the right hand side, and I don't know what type of bombs they have, but they seem to be big bombs. They're pretty impressive. So they target my forces that are on that road, wipe out some of them and force the rest to fall back. For my part, I've got my Typhoon on hand again, and I bring that in to target one of the light tanks. I don't think it destroys it. I think it actually manages to force it to surrender to the infantry that's there, and the second light tank has to fall back. Up on the hill to the left, the German infantry has been forced back from the tree line. It's been pushed back up to the summit, and I now have a Wolverine moving up there to support what infantry I've got left. And I'm calling in more reinforcements, as you can see. My OP tank has now made it up towards the objective, and it's looking for targets in the rear area. And over by the village here, the German infantry squads are trying to move forward, but the Wolverine engages, and it manages to pin down the infantry, and with a second shot it takes out the tank that was supporting them. On the left hand side, I'm still pounding away on the hill with my two artillery pieces. The infantry's been forced back to the summit, and in the centre, German reinforcements are being brought in. There are 3 infantry squads and a couple of anti-tank guns all moving up along the road, and they move up and unload behind the tree line there. So they're out of range, I can't engage them, but I do know that they're there. And on the hill, the 25 pounders and Wolverine are engaging the infantry squad that's up on the summit, keeping it pinned down. The German light tank that's been hidden all this time decides to move forward, breaks cover, and Wolverine engages it and just brews it up straight away. And the 25 pounders, the infantry and the Wolverine now begin to mop up the last units that are up on the hill there. Over in the centre, the German reinforcements begin to push through that stand of trees, but you can see that I've got off-map artillery targeting that area. And I was hoping that to see some sort of massive sort of gout of fire and destruction. The OP is there, they've got good visual on it. The Germans are moving right through the field of fire. But as it turns out, it's not as effective as I'd hoped it was going to be. It did some damage and it pinned some of the units that are there, but at least one of the infantry squads is okay and it engages us, and one of the anti-tank guns also isn't suppressed, and that engages the little joint and brews it up. Eventually. There you go. Over on the right hand side of the village, I've pushed forward again with my infantry and my Wolverine. Decided to try and clear it, but again it's still really strongly held. I'm surprised, to be honest, at how many forces are still there. The fact that he didn't push forward, I thought he was quite weak in that area. But we're now into the final few skirmishes of the battle. He brings in his HS-124 again, makes a last attack, targeting my Wolverine on the right hand side. Unfortunately, this time his attack is successful. Takes it out. But the last word in the battle goes to my Typhoon, which I bring in. It targets one of the anti-aircraft guns, and it manages to take it out with the last action of the combat. And that was it. So it was a really enjoyable battle from my perspective. Respect to my opponent, Hans van Glocken. He could have pitched it in at any point. He fought it out right to the end, and he made good use of his forces in terms of the composition of how he was defending the sites, the mixture of infantry and machine guns and anti-tank guns. And, it was just too far back. The fact that I was able to push up and start the war score ticking up, the victory score ticking up, was what won me the battle. If he'd been defending a bit further forward, I don't know how it would have ended up. It might well have gone in his favour. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. Please leave a comment and rate the video, and please subscribe if you enjoy watching this series, and I hope to see you again in the next one real soon. Cheers.